Hi there, this is the RPS project. I'm Richard, and today I'm going to have a second look at biasing up a transistor. Last time I had a look at an NPN transistor in a class A amplify or amplification type circuit, so just a single transistor with some biasing, and previously I'd wanted to know what sort of voltages I needed to give me a good biased point so I can get a signal in and a decent signal out. This time I'm going to focus on the current flow through that same circuit so I can better understand maybe what's going on, and then I can put those two figures together hopefully and start to evaluate and make some headway in understanding in what this little circuit does. I'm not going to look at the gain this time, but it's something that will hopefully lead me into understanding the gain, and something I can look at in maybe a future video, and what the relationship of the base current to the collector emitter current is, and well, basically then hopefully I'll have a full understanding of biasing up a transistor, especially in this class A amplifier sort of circuit. Anyway, so enough about me talking about it, so let's have a look at it on the bench. So here we go, I've got the same setup as I had last time on the breadboard basically. Same bunch of transistors. It's what I actually did last time, wasn't it? I had NPN transistor, a 1K on the collector, and this is my bias point for my base. And what I did is I had 1K and I changed it to a 2K2, and then for 2 diodes. And I've got 6 resistors here that I just changed each time I wanted to see what the bias point would be. But this time, instead of looking at the voltage bias point, I'm going to be looking at the current that's flowing through here and the current that's flowing through here. Now I've put my multimeter, one here for the emitter collector current, and another multimeter here looking at the current for this resistor divider that's going onto the base. I suppose I could really put it in here, then I'd see exactly what I'm getting onto the base, but I might do that next time when I'm trying to look at the gain of the amplifier. But for now I'm just going to put it there. Besides, my multimeters aren't that good, so they're not going to really show really low current, but I can get a fairly decent low value. But then also, if I put it on the lowest range, I've noticed that it gives me one value, but if I switch up a range, like on this one here, if I'm on the lowest range, it gives me one value, but if I don't change anything in the circuit and move it up to the next range, it gives me a different value. So these multimeters aren't that good at being particularly accurate, so there's a certain amount of error in there. But anyway, we'll have a look at that and make some measurements. So it's the same circuit as before. The emitter resistor is going to be 1 meg, 10k, 4k7, 1k, 430 ohm and 260 ohm. I'm just going to see what I get in this circuit. So yeah, let's turn it on, starting with a 4k7 and a 1k here for my bias point onto the base. So let's turn it on, start having a look at it, see what it's doing. So as I expected, the base current, or the current that I'm presenting to the base, even though the base current doesn't need that much current really, is, God, that's 870 microamps. So that is really small, and I've basically got nothing on the collector emitter. It's just such a small amount. I have done some calculations for these, and I'll have a look in a bit once I've taken down some measurements and see what the difference is. But I mean, this multimeter is just not sensitive enough to be able to pick up sort of nanoamps. It's just not good enough. So there you go. Anyway, on to the next resistor after the 1 meg. Now I've got This is the 10k, 870 microamps across being presented to the base, and I've got 34 microamps collector emitter. And onto 4k7, again the base isn't changing, and I've got 69 microamps on the collector emitter. Onto the 1k, well, basically no change on the base, 271 collector emitter. Nothing, no change on the base, and 529 microamps on the collector emitter, and down all the way to the 260 ohm, 871 microamps on the base, basically no change, and 742 microamps, not milliamps, microamps on the collector emitter. So actually looking at this, with this setup, with the bias point where it is with the 1k here, effectively what I'm presenting at the base across this point through this resistor divider is larger than I'm getting through the collector emitter, which is really useless because it's not working as an amplifier then, is it? So that's not particularly helpful. Anyway, let's change that 1k on the resistor divider for the base for a 2k2, which will be that one. If I remember rightly, previously this gave me a better bias point on the base. So let's turn that on, with it being with the 1 meg on the emitter. This time we've got 722 microamps being presented on that resistor divider to the base, and what, 1 microamp on the collector emitter. So definitely no amplification going on there, you know, it's almost non-existent. Up onto the 10k, 722 microamps to the base, and 102 microamps across the collector emitter. Down to the 4k7, 722 microamps on the base, and 213 microamps on the collector emitter. Down to the 1k, 723 microamps to the base, and 888 microamps on the collector emitter. 889 now, it's just popped up one, but still relatively small. I'm only just now got more current through the collector emitter than I've got being presented to the base. Onto the 430 ohm resistor, 724 microamps on the base, and 1.8 milliamps on the collector emitter. Now I'm going to just switch this up a range, and we'll see that we get a change on here that shows that this meter is not very accurate when switching between different ranges at this low current. Because see, now I change that, according to this meter I've got 2.14 milliamps on the 20 milliamp range, whereas on the 2 milliamp range I've got 1.8 milliamps. So there's a big difference there, but it's just what I've got to work with this meter. But I've got to go up a range now because I'm getting to the point where I'm going above the 2 milliamps. So down to the lowest resistor, 260 ohm, 726 microamps presented to the base, and 3.34 milliamps on the collector emitter. So I'm actually getting some gain now. I'm getting an increase in the current that that this transistor's getting through this through this part of the circuit based on what this is seeing here. And effectively, I suppose really I'm swamping out the base because I don't need that much current. This is just because I've got this resistor divider here, and this will just use what it requires to make this junction, the base emitter junction, to work, depending upon which resistor I've got in at the emitter. So yeah, but as long as it's steady, which it is, it seems to be fairly steady when I'm using that. So next one is the diodes, because previously, like I said, I put 2 diodes in there, so I'm going to shove 2 diodes in and see how that works. Right, 2K2 out. Get that first diode in. Second diode in. There we go. Right, okay, so let's turn this on and see what readings I'm getting. Right, back with the 1 meg with and don't forget this time the base biasing is as a 4K7 there, and 2 diodes, no resistor, 2 diodes in series. If I can draw that in, very scruffy. So red pen doesn't show up very well, never mind. Anyway, the base, it's getting 776 microamps, and the collector emitter is effectively 0. So let's change it up to 10K. 776 for the base and 78 microamps for the collector emitter. 4K7, 776 microamps on the base and 162 microamps on the collector emitter. 1K, 776 microamps on the base. So on all of these so far, the base voltage, the base current, sorry, has been really stable. It's not really changed at all. So whatever I'm doing with the circuit, it's not being affected in any way. So that's great. Collector emitter current is 670 microamps. And then onto the 430 ohm, 776 microamps to the base. And now this is saying 1.34 milliamps. Now I'm going to turn it up a range to see what that does. See, that gives me a little bit more, goes to 1.57. So there is a slight difference by being in a different range on the multimeter from 2 milliamps to 20 milliamps. Let's take it back down to the 2 milliamps and onto the last resistor, 260 ohm. Again, 776 microamps to the base, up with 1.93 milliamps to the collector emitter. If I take that upper range, it's given me 2.51 milliamps. And hopefully this range is a bit better. This lowest range on this multimeter doesn't seem to be all that accurate. Or I don't know if I can trust it. It's not a big, flashy, smart, expensive multimeter, so I reckon it's doing really well. So yeah, that's sort of it really. I mean, looking at it, I'd say that if I was using this circuit, then it seems to be that from what I've just wrote down, I don't know if you can see this on there very well, that here on this one with the 260 ohm with the 2K2 and a 4K7 bias point gives me 726 microamps with on the base with 3.34 milliamps on the collector emitter, which seems to be about the best current or gain that I'm going to get. But That's something else I'll look at later anyway, the gain. And on this particular circuit with the two diodes, 2.51 milliamps to 776. So yeah, so the worst circuit really is this one. I'm not gaining anything with the 4K7 and the 1K with that biasing for the base. I'm just not getting anything usable out above what I'm putting in, so onto the base. So that's really not a very good circuit, regardless of what the voltage bias points might be on there. The best one really is this one with the 2K2. So there you go, current through a transistor. Transistor set up as a Class A amplifier, very simple. But what have I learned today? I'm not sure I've really learned a great deal at all. I suppose what I've got is a load of data. I've now got to take this data and turn it into some sensible information. I could correlate this sort of with the voltages, which is what I did last time. These are the voltages that I got when I was trying to bias up that transistor, and then have a look at the current I'm getting through and see if there's any relationship to that. I mean, I haven't looked at the gain yet, which I suppose is another thing I'm going to have to look at. So that means getting the calculator out and having some time trying to work out what's going on. I suppose that might help me to understand this circuit a bit better. It is only one transistor, so it shouldn't be too difficult, I hope. Anyway, I'll keep that for another video. If you happen to like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and all comments are welcome. And I'll catch you next time.